Welcome to BuildMo. This is the home of the community advantage, where we explore how organizations turn transformation into real performance. At BuildMo, we focus on the part of AI transformation most organizations underestimate: human infrastructure. The teams, behaviors, and operating rhythms that turn powerful tools into real capability. We position community as the missing middle layer in enterprise change, the bridge between strategy, technology, and how work actually gets done. In each episode, we unpack what is really happening inside organizations as they deploy AI. What is working, what is stalling, and why? We speak with operators, executives, and transformation leaders who share real experiences of building adoption, productivity, and durable advantage inside complex institutions. If you are responsible for results, not just rollout, you are in the right place.
And we are so glad you're here. I'm Emily, and I'm here with Ken. Ken, today's topic, I think it's one of the most important ones we've covered when it comes to AI adoption.
I agree, Emily. We're talking about the 3 roles that decide whether your AI investment pays off. And it's not about the technology, it's about the people, but maybe not in the way most leaders think about it.
Exactly. It's not about just, training everyone. It's about understanding the hidden talent that's already in your organization. Because when you roll out a new tool like AI, something predictable happens, right? A kind of informal social structure emerges.
That's the perfect way to put it. We call it the hidden talent problem, and it breaks down into about 3 buckets of people.
Okay, so what's the first one?
First, you get the enthusiasts, the people who dive in headfirst. They're excited, they start using it immediately, and they pretty quickly become the informal go-to experts.
Right, every team has 1 or 2 of those. The person who's already figured out 5 cool things to do with it by lunchtime on day 1.
Exactly. Then you have the second group. This is the majority of people. They try it, they hit a blocker, they get a weird result, and they don't know who to ask for help. So they just give up. Or they work around it and go back to the old way of doing things.
And that's where adoption stalls, because that friction, it's just too high. They think, oh, this is too complicated for me.
It is. And then there's this third really interesting group. These are the process-minded people. They quietly figure out a really reliable, useful workflow. They get it to work for them consistently, but they never tell anyone. They don't document it.
So you end up with these little islands of success. You've got the enthusiasts who are super visible, but maybe a bit chaotic. And the people who gave up, who are invisible, and the people who succeeded but are also invisible. And leadership just sees this murky picture. Adoption feels really fragile because it all depends on this undocumented, invisible knowledge.
That's the core problem. The whole system depends on who you happen to know or who you sit next to. It's not a system at all. It's just luck. And that doesn't scale.
Okay, so let's break down the solution, because inside that hidden talent pool are 3 specific roles. And the first one is the most obvious. You called them the enthusiasts. We call them the champions.
Yes, the champions or the evangelist. These are the people who just can't stop talking about AI's potential. They're sharing wins in team meetings. They're showing their colleagues cool tricks. They're generating genuine excitement.
They're creating the buzz, and that's super important, right? Their function is to create momentum and to give other people cultural permission to even try it. They make it feel safe and exciting.
It's vital. Without champions, any new initiative feels risky. It feels like something that might get you in trouble or something that's not a priority. Champions signal that this is a valued activity.
But, and this is the big but, they have a limitation. Enthusiasm doesn't scale. Just being excited about something doesn't automatically translate into helping other people get past their specific problems.
That's the key. Their excitement is broad, not deep. And most transformation programs, they stop there. They think, great, we found our power users. Let's just clone them.
Right. Or they put them on a pedestal, which can actually intimidate other people.
Which leads us to the second role. This role is less about excitement and more about support. These are the mentors.
Ah, the problem solvers. I love this group. These are the people who, when you're stuck, you instinctively turn to them. They're not always the loudest advocates, but they're the most reliable helpers.
Exactly. Their natural behavior is to respond to questions, troubleshoot, and guide people through blockers. They have the patience and the practical knowledge to say, "Oh, I had that exact problem last week. Here's what you do."
Their adoption function is totally different from a champion's. They reduce friction. They are the reason people don't give up. A champion gets you to try, but a mentor gets you to succeed.
A crucial distinction. They accelerate that individual learning curve and build confidence, but they also have a limitation.
Let me guess, they become a bottleneck?
A huge bottleneck. They create dependency. Everyone goes to the same 2 or 3 people. Those people get burnt out answering the same questions over and over, and all that valuable knowledge, it lives in their heads. It's not in a system. If a mentor leaves or gets a new project,
Adoption in their area just collapses because the support structure's gone.
precisely. And that brings us to the third role. And Emily, this is the one that almost every single AI transformation program misses. This is the key to scaling. We call them the AI operator.
Okay, the systematizers. I'm intrigued. So they're not just enthusiastic like champions, and they're not just one-on-one helpers like mentors. What do they do?
They think in systems. An AI operator is someone who is process-minded. They see a messy, successful experiment, and their first instinct is, how can I turn this into a repeatable playbook? They break complex work into smaller, manageable chunks.
Ah, so they're the ones who were in that third bucket of the hidden talent problem, the ones who figured it out but didn't share.
Potentially, yes, but their defining feature is how they think. A mentor asks, how did I do this? An operator asks, how could anyone do this? It's a subtle but profound shift in perspective, from a personal solution to a systematic one.
So their function is to scale adoption horizontally. They take the success of one person and turn it into a capability for the entire organization. That feels like the missing link.
It is the missing link. Their playbooks, their documented processes, that's transferable infrastructure. That's how you reduce dependency on individual champions and mentors. Knowledge stops living in people's heads and starts living in the system.
Okay, so let's tie all this together. You need all three roles working in concert. It's not about picking one.
You absolutely do. Think about what happens if one is missing. Without champions, nothing ever starts. There's no energy, no momentum. The whole thing feels dead on arrival.
Right. And without mentors, people try, get frustrated, and quit. All that initial excitement from the champions just fizzles out into disillusionment. You get a graveyard of failed attempts.
And then, crucially, without AI operators, adoption never scales beyond the reach of your mentors. It remains fragile, person-dependent, and will collapse the moment those key people get busy or leave. You have pockets of success, but no real organizational capability.
It's like a three-legged stool. Champions provide the push, mentors provide the support, and operators provide the platform to build on. You take any leg away and the whole thing falls over.
That's a great analogy. And as we've said, most companies only focus on the first leg, the champions. Some try to formally train the second leg, the mentors, by certifying experts, but almost no one is looking for or activating the third leg, the operator.
So this is the big question. If these roles are hidden, how on earth do you find these people? You can't just send an email saying, are you a champion, a mentor, or an operator? People don't self-identify like that.
You can't, and this is really the core of our work with the 30-day AI adoption pilot. You don't find them by asking. You find them by creating a context where their natural behaviors become visible. You have to observe them in the wild.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does it work, week by week?
All right, so in week 1, it's all about creating visibility. We look at aggregate usage patterns. We're not monitoring individuals. That's not the point. We're asking, where is usage concentrated? Which teams show a healthy distributed use versus depending on just 1 or 2 people?
And that's where the champions emerge.
Exactly. You see them through their consistent, diverse use across different tasks. But more than that, you see them in conversation threads advocating for its use, encouraging others. Their advocacy behavior makes them visible.
Okay, so week 1, you've mapped your champions. What about week 2?
Week 2 is about putting peer learning in motion. We set up a very lightweight loop where real work questions, I'm trying to summarize this transcript, but I keep getting hallucinations. Those questions get routed to colleagues who have likely solved similar problems. No consultants, no bots, just peer-to-peer help made visible.
And boom, your mentors reveal themselves. They're the ones who consistently respond with helpful, actionable advice.
They can't help it. It's their natural behavior. And we also start to see the behavioral signals of emerging operators here. A mentor might say, "Here's how I handled that." But an emerging operator says something different. They'll say, "Here's the 3-step process I follow every time for that."
That's fascinating. That little linguistic shift from I to the process. It says everything.
It does. Which leads us to week 3. Workflow capture and operator activation. Now that we've identified these potential operators, we explicitly ask 3 to 5 of them to do something. We ask them to document one repeatable workflow using a simple framework.
So you're not just observing anymore, you're activating that skill. You're asking them to turn their messy real-world process into a clean, bounded, testable playbook that someone else can use.
And this is the acid test. The people who can actually do this, who can create those short, human-readable playbooks, they prove their capability through execution. These are your true AI operators. These are the people who can scale this capability for you.
And by the end of that week, you don't just have a list of names, you have actual assets, 3 to 5 governance-ready playbooks that immediately reduce the load on your mentors and champions.
That's the output. But the outcome is even more important. The outcome is you now know your natural systematizers. You found your scaling engine.
So what happens in week 4?
Week 4 is proof of capability. We essentially rerun the baseline measurements from week 1 and we compare. Has adoption spread beyond the initial group of champions? Are more people helping each other, not just the same few mentors? And critically, are people using the new playbooks without needing constant handholding?
So you get hard data that shows whether you've actually built a more resilient, systematic capability, rather than just relying on individual heroics.
You get the proof, and that's the strategic value of this whole process. By the end of the 30 days, you don't just have a bit more adoption, you have a map of your internal talent pools.
And you know how to use them. You know your champions can be mobilized for communications and generating buzz, but they aren't your scaling mechanism.
Right. You know your mentors need to be recognized and protected from burnout, and that their expertise needs to be gradually captured in these playbooks, so they're not answering the same question for the 100th time.
And most importantly, you found your AI operators, the people who represent your true, sustainable scaling capability. They are your investment in the future, not just a short-term momentum play.
It really flips the problem on its head. Most AI transformation efforts fail because they treat adoption as a training problem or a tooling problem.
When it's really a talent identification and capability activation problem. The talent is already there. The champions, mentors, and operators already exist in your company. They're just invisible and disconnected from each other.
This process doesn't create the roles. It reveals them, activates them, and then connects them into a functioning system. It turns that hidden, fragile talent into visible, durable capability.
That makes sense. But what about the role of leadership in all this? It can't just be a bottom-up effort, can it? Once you've identified these people, what does an executive team need to do to actually empower them?
That's the critical question, Emily. It's not enough to just identify these roles. Leadership has to create the conditions for them to succeed. For champions, leaders need to give them a platform. This means inviting them to share their wins in company-wide meetings, celebrating their experiments, and publicly recognizing their enthusiasm. It's about turning their grassroots energy into a visible, sanctioned part of the company culture. It signals to everyone else that this is important and that experimentation is encouraged.
Okay, so that covers champions. What about the other 2 roles? How does leadership effectively support mentors and operators? It feels like they need more than just encouragement. They need tangible resources and protection.
Absolutely. For mentors, the key is protection and recognition. Leaders need to make this role legitimate. That means formally acknowledging the time mentors spend helping others, perhaps by allocating a specific portion of their official work hours to it. This prevents it from being shadow work, done on nights and weekends. It also means protecting them from burnout. You can't have your best helpers drowning in repetitive questions. The leadership's job is to champion the system that captures their knowledge, which leads directly to the operator. For operators, leadership support is about empowerment and resources. They need to be given the authority to standardize workflows across teams. This can be politically tricky, so they need executive air cover. It's not about creating rigid bureaucracy. It's about establishing a reliable, vetted source of truth that prevents people from reinventing the wheel. Leaders should provide them with the dedicated time, tools, and platforms to create, test, and maintain these playbooks. And most critically, leadership must enforce the use of these playbooks. They need to make it clear that adopting these standardized processes is the new expectation. This is what validates the operator's work and ensures their efforts translate into real, durable organizational capability, not just a library of dusty documents.
So for the leader listening to this, who's maybe a few months into an AI rollout and things feel a bit stuck or fragile like we described, this is a path to getting clarity.
It's the path. It tells you whether your current state of adoption is real, fragile, or fixable. And it gives you the map and the people to actually fix it using the talent you already have.
It's an incredible framework, Ken. Really powerful. So if someone listening wants to learn more about this process, where should they go?
The best place to start is our website. We've detailed the whole process at buildmote.co.uk/30-day pilot. You can see how it works and what the deliverables are.
Fantastic. I think that's a perfect place to wrap up. The 3 roles: champions, mentors, and AI operators. You need all 3 to make your AI investment truly pay off.
Find your champions, support your mentors, and for goodness sake, activate your operators.
That wraps today's episode of the Community Advantage from BuildMote. If this conversation challenged how you think about AI adoption, share it with a colleague who's navigating transformation right now. You can find more insights, frameworks, and details on our 30-day AI adoption pilot at buildmote.co/30-day pilot. And if AI is already live in your organization and leadership needs proof before scaling further, our work is designed for you. Thanks for listening. We will see you in the next episode.